Wednesday, December 11th. I am last night for me in Vienna. Patrick's, I guess it's your last night in Germany before going to Hungary. We'll both be on the road tomorrow. I'll be going to Milan for the Fall Series Throwdown. We're going to do a little bit touching on that. Patrick's going to Hungary for the International Functional Fitness Championships. Touch on that a little bit, just kind of preview some of the rosters, some of the things that we know and what we're doing there. But we're getting close to the end of the year. This upcoming weekend is our last weekend for travel. Then we'll both have some stretches that will be at home prior to Wadapalooza, which is going to be kind of the start of the 2025 year for us in terms of getting back on the road. But this year's been really cool to have the support of HGR CBD from January all the way through until now. Means a ton to us. Carl and Dimitri and all the guys over there, they believed in us and we've believed in them. And I just want to start the show by acknowledging that. Strike Movement joined up with us in some selective spots and then consistently since the games, and has been a huge supporter of ours as well. So, it's holiday time. Maybe if you're buying some stuff, looking to buy some stuff, and you've enjoyed the content that we've been producing this year, consider Strike Movement or HCR CBD as maybe an option to try out for yourself or friends or something like that. They do a lot for us, and if it makes sense for you to just do a little bit to show them some support or get something from them to help, as a present for someone if you're looking for it. Quality stuff. So thank you for an awesome year, Strike Movement, HCR CBD. Oh yeah, we'll be in Miami, and we'll have plenty of time to talk about Miami. The rosters are starting to drop, some athlete announcements and stuff like that. And we'll talk plenty about Wadapalooza, but that's not going to be the focus of the show today. I think we're going to kind of cruise through this one a little bit. We got a lot going on this week. I just want to say I've been in Vienna for this couple of days now, and it's been incredible. This is not something that I always get to do on the road, is to go to new places, integrate with new communities. But there's some people here who were in Oslo, Norway. I got in touch with them through some serendipitous circumstances that happened there. We arranged this very similar to what Patrick and Seher Kaya and I did last year in Turkey, as just a stop in between two competitions, to be able to do something that, quite frankly, is just as meaningful or more so than covering the competitions, which is I got to coach a class at an affiliate. I got to do a seminar there, got to integrate with people in a new place, and just get to see and hear from those people. So Shireen has been hosting me here, and Zone Fitness has been allowing me to work out there. It's been awesome. If you guys ever are in Vienna and you need to know what to do or where to go from a fitness perspective, hit me up and I'll direct you to the right people. I think we'll start by looking backwards at what happened last weekend. I was in Dubai for the fourth time, 2019, 22, 3, and now 4. Patrick's been there about a similar number of times. We know those guys really well. We know Saud is a friend of mine, in addition to someone that I get a chance to work with. And I've seen the conversations, I've seen the criticisms, I've seen the things that are really, really easy to point out from afar. And it's actually funny. I mean, is it true that the judging is Dubai and horrible and no one got a no rep? No, that's not true at all. Definitely the second part's not true. Got to say, Dubai was one of the best comps in recent memory. Athletes, cameras, commentary, professional. This is how it should be. Thank you. And, I think that it's just like, this is just where we are in the sport, is that there are people like CJ that are going to see this and see all the good things about it. And there's other people that have chosen to speak about it and are largely focusing on negative and relatively insignificant things with regards to that competition. When you take a step backwards and look at the totality of what's happening there, don't forget that this competition's existed since 2012. It's offered significant earning opportunities to athletes from all over the world and at all levels, not just the best 5 athletes in the world. They have a chance to go there and make some significant prize money. They integrate their culture and their community. They value loyalty. They value things that I don't think they always get credit for valuing. And it's been a privilege to be able to be a part of it, to learn from them, to work with them, to help support them. And I had a great weekend. I had a great week there. Actually, I went there early. Got to be involved more at the competition than I ever have previously, and usually more, and really more than I usually am at competitions. Got to spend time with a lot of the athletes, talk to them, get their perspectives on where the state of CrossFit and fitness is at, and also watch a really exciting competition from, at least from my perspective. Patrick, I don't know how much of the coverage you were able to watch or integrate with, because you were covering a different event that we'll talk about, but anything you want to just add on top of that as an intro?
I was able to actually watch quite a bit of it. Sorry about that. And especially the three opening events, the ones off site. Yeah, I mean, no, I mean, like you said, it gets a share of criticism. I've been a kind of a defender of Dubai. And I know, like Peter said yesterday in his Coffee Pots vlog with Nick Johnson's, like, he doesn't understand how, like, athletes can say, this was a good comp and this and that and that. And I'm like, well, because they're competing there and that's their opinion. And he's forming an opinion based on something he's never been to and other people's account of it, and that's fine. And I'll defend it. I mean, I'll defend it because I've been there. I've seen it. I've seen how, Saud, how much attention he pays to the athletes, and what they do. And I don't know. I like I said, I think it's a good comp. I mean, when it comes to off-season comps, I think it's one of the top 3 off-season comps. I mean, and the for it being around 12 years, still has a substantial payout. It's still probably the 3rd highest. I believe it is the 3rd highest payout amongst the 3 major off-season competitions. So it'll keep on attracting athletes. And yeah, I mean, it's brought up every year. There's no fans in the stands, type thing. I'm like, but yet it's still there. It still competes. And
this is it's just a general thing. Yeah. And I first learned this lesson with relationships. Regardless of the relationship, whether it's your boss, your parents, your kids, teacher, student, lover, whatever, if you want to find a problem with the relationship, you'll find one. It's not hard to find. If you want to make it work, you'll make it work. Yeah. And it's just this mentality that you have to adopt in life. Do you want to be a person who seeks out the good or who seeks out the bad? And that doesn't mean if you seek out the good that you can't be critical. And it doesn't mean that if you seek out the bad that you have to enjoy everything. But largely speaking, we are people that are going to primarily focus on the positive. It doesn't mean we're going to ignore the negative. And when it comes to Dubai, I think that the positives largely outweigh the negatives. I don't even think it's close. And the only thing I could say, to echo what Patrick said, is that if you disagree with that statement and you haven't been there, nobody cares. Your opinion is invalid. Because I saw people say, that final sucked. That was a fail. That was a miss. But every athlete I spoke to after the final was like, holy shit, that final was so fun. Go talk to the athletes. Go watch it. Go experience it yourself. And if not, then understand that when you're saying whatever you're going to say about it, that it's completely out of context. Mm-hmm. And therefore, it's largely irrelevant.
Yeah. Because it's a competition competition's thrown there for athletes. And you're having athletes that are doing the qualifiers that show up. And you have athletes that have shown up multiple years. I mean, Brittany Weiss, went 2016. So almost when she was still a teenager, 2016, and she's been back twice. This is her 3rd time. Tola keeps on going there. I mean, Karen Freyova. I mean, you're seeing this repeat of athletes are still going.
Dude, Jamie Simmons won it in 2014. She won that competition. Ago. And we're going to talk about Jamie Simmons because you don't podium at major events 10 years apart. Like, that is so freaking rare. Yeah. This was,
but I mean,
Lucas
there's something to say.
Straight time competing there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's something to say for athletes that keep on going back there. If it's that bad, then why are they going
And
back?
also this, there were 39 new athletes there that have never competed there before. So a third of the athletes are returning or veteran. And for most of those 39 athletes, if you took a second to follow them on Instagram and watch one post that they made from the weekend, you're going to see people who have fulfilled a lifelong dream, people who have checked the goal off of their goal list that they have for their career as an athlete in the fitness space, people that have a huge community of support from wherever they're from that are tuning in and watching with bated breath. And if you're a person who's sitting back and saying, the broadcast coverage of the first three events, don't even bother. You're a person who hasn't bothered to talk to the athletes, their families, their friends, the people they coach, the gym they train in, or the community that they've created in their part of the world. Those people are so grateful that there's something to watch. And someone who has been around this sport for a long time definitely understands that it's very difficult to broadcast those events. I personally went out of my way in several different ways to make it possible for people to watch those, understanding, yeah, it's not going to be perfect. We have very limited resources, very limited time. Rodri was waking up at 3 a.m. to produce those broadcasts from Spain. And if anybody can appreciate that for what it was, then we don't want you around. I don't want you talking about what we're doing. Just do your own thing and leave us alone, because there's a ton of people that really appreciate and care about that. And they're mostly athletes and fans, which is the reason that Patrick and I do this, to represent the athletes for the fans. So I wanted to thank Rodri, specifically Lucy, Mike Bourne, who was not supposed to be a part of the broadcast and did an incredible job, for stepping up, adapting, rolling with the flow. Dubai is known for that. You have to be willing to adapt on the fly. It's not the Rogue Invitational. It's not the CrossFit Games. It doesn't want to be. It's its own thing. Appreciate it for what it is. All those athletes qualified there. No matter how good they did that weekend, they qualified for that event. They earned the right to be there. Be respectful of the people that are trying to make it a special thing for them. The jerseys were fantastic. It was easy to tell who was who, and I love that they had to keep them on. They have to keep them on because of cultural things, but I absolutely agree with that. At the obstacle course offsite event, they had to wear the obstacle course jerseys, and they did have their name on them, which was cool. They got an additional jersey for competing in that, but it was a lot harder to read. But this is such a great observation. You know, how many times in sport in general, I watch a Yankees game. I don't know who the hell anyone is because they don't put the name on the back of the jersey. And I don't watch enough to memorize that number 8 is, I don't know who it is. You know, watch an NHL game, they got a helmet on. NFL game, they got a helmet on, but they have their name on the back. I can identify it. Well, Dubai has jerseys. They have their qualifying number and their name, and it's easy to identify. Yeah, to put on any event, it takes time, effort, commitment, coordination, and the variables are largely different. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. Here's a good example. Chase Ingram and Bill Grunler did their thorough review of this competition. And Chase was frustrated because there were sandbags on back-to-back events. Those sandbags weigh 150 and 200 pounds, and they were also using them as the risers to get up and on to the pull-up bar for the shorter athletes. Because we had them in back-to-back events, the number of times that the equipment crew had to move all that weight on and off the floor was less. The transitions between events was less. There's things that are considered that just don't fit in with if you're only looking through one avenue, the programming avenue. You need to consider the totality of things. And a lot of those things are difficult to understand if A, you're not there, and B, you don't bother to ask anyone who's there or talk to anyone who's there. So, and I feel like I need to say some of these things just to defend some of the things that you guys are, are all very positive and whatever. But it hurts me to see some of those things being said in the light of people who are trying really hard to be considerate of a lot of group of people, and that's not necessarily being considered by everyone. So, 3 offsite events to start the competition, 9 total events, 3 days of coverage. It was my first time to work with Lucy Campbell in a broadcast capacity. She was amazing. I hope that we did a good job of representing the athletes. I hope that we did a good job of communicating what the events were, kind of the purpose of them. And we're not going to spend too much time rehashing all of those things. I want to talk about some of the things that we see on the leaderboard here. We've been kind of setting this stage for the totality of the off season, that after a CrossFit Games where a majority of the results are drawn into question because a portion of the athletes didn't participate in the competition, we're getting to see some things from athletes this weekend that give us maybe a better idea of either who they are or what their caliber of fitness is. We understand that there's not the top 10 athletes from the games. Even if everyone had competed, they're not in this competition. That's okay. We have Karen Frey at the top of the leaderboard. She's become the first back-to-back champion in the history of the DFC on either the men's or women's side. There's only one other athlete that's won 3 times, and it's Annie Thor's daughter. Karen Frey added her names to that list. She's done it 3 in a row. In addition to the 3 first, she's had a second and a fourth there. She does it in a traditional Karen Frey way, and I have to say this. If you didn't watch any of the DFC coverage, take 9 minutes and go watch the final heat of women for event 8, which was the tribute to Lazar workout. That was one of the most impressive superhuman performances I've seen in a long time. She never stops. She never slows down. She never pauses. There were 2 machines, 2 gymnastics implements, including handstand walking, which used to be an issue for her, 2 barbell movements. She was extremely, extremely close with Lazar. And I really think she was channeling something in that event that's pretty unique. And I would encourage you to go watch that one if you're a fan of the sport. Karen Frey, in Europe, in the Middle East, she is an assassin. She's only getting better. The work that she's done with Facundo is extremely obvious. If you've been watching her from at least 3 years ago to now, you'll see dramatic improvements in the gymnastics, the approach, the tactical approach, the pacing. She's still a beast with a barbell. She always has been. So her running has gotten better. Definitely her gymnastics improved. And she's a very quiet person. She's very reserved. I haven't spoken much with her since the games. I got a chance to talk to her a little bit. But honestly, it was one of those things where not even very much had to be said. Just to see her smile, just to give her a hug, just to have small interactions with her was really important for me and really great to see her doing well at a competition that is dear to her and was dear to him. So congratulations, Karen Frey. In my opinion, she is the queen of Dubai.
Yeah, well said. Congrats on Karen making me look like an idiot. But yeah, it was great to see. I know one reason why I put her outside my podium and put her at 5th was because I didn't know how she would react. First competition with a lot of emotion, with Luca there, with a lot of just familiar things that that most athletes probably don't want to deal with. And she answered all those questions. She looks in great shape, great condition. I mean, it looks like she was peeking through this. It looks like you said, maybe the Sapphire Throwdown, or what was it, Sapphire? The
Grand Sapphire, yeah.
Grand Sapphire. She wasn't peaking, and it probably was, just a lot of things. But here, she came on strong, especially that last day, a first, and a fourth. Pretty much had it all taken care of after she won that event 8. But that podium though is very impressive, because of those 3 athletes at podium, they're all athletes that, for one way or another, they were affected by the passing of Lazar. Karen obviously withdrew. Jamie, who competed on a team, their team elected not to compete. They were really close with Lazar. That whole team was. And then Matilda, I mean, you famously saw how she was competing with her emotions on her sleeve all weekend with the Peak 360 team. And, I think it was just I think if you had to pick 3 women to kind of, who were close to Lazar or knew him or were familiar with him, those are the 3 women that did it. They went out there and did that thing.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know what Lynn's just loves giving you a hard time, probably.
She does.
Jamie Simmons, we put out our predictions. We had her kind of in the middle of the top 10, recognizing that her potential is very high. Her success in Dubai is very good, but she's relatively an unknown entity coming into this competition from an individual perspective. And she even kind of said in her post after the fact that it kind of felt good to dust off the cobwebs of individual competition. The last time we saw her compete individually, she hurt her elbow at the games when she was, I think she would have finished 12th if she hadn't. And she was incredible. In general, in Dubai, you need to be good at weightlifting and conditioning. And Jamie's good at both. And I didn't know. I thought that the thing that would keep her and Kristen off of the podium was their strength, just as they're getting older and the field's getting stronger. I think that was the case for Kristen. That wasn't the case for Jamie. She was one of the strongest athletes in the field. In addition to being one of the best conditioned, she still has the proficiency on the gymnastics. She's basically, to me, she's as good as she's ever been. I mean, I know she played podium at the games one year, but everything considered, she still freaking got it. It was so cool to watch her. Every single event, she rose to the occasion. So hats off to the work that Jamie's can put in to get back to this level of competition 2 years later. Amazing.
Yeah, I don't know if Holta really, if the strength really kept her off the podium. I think it was just the totality of the test. She's not used to that, which is hard to say because
if you just think like if we look at her results, I think the lifting event, even if you look at the final, like the number of times that she had to break the barbell on the clean and jerks, this power snatches and overhead squats, like if there was a hole in her game relative to the other women that were towards the top, the heavy complex was 19th. The Lazar Triplet and Final Showdown were those workouts that were 13th and 15th. Like those were the events that, she still beat a majority of the field. She finished 5th, but to keep her from contending with Jamie and Matilda was just those parts of those events.
Yeah.
Which was, that's what I expected from her. And I wasn't sure about Jamie, and Jamie proved us wrong. She proved better than we expected, but not better than we thought that she could potentially be.
Yeah. Kind of looking at Kristen Holta, second on that 1K run. Just showing that 39 years old, she still has that speed and that capacity. And then just like pure CrossFit, the double strength challenge, the elimination sprint. Yeah, you could tell though, watching. If you do get a chance, go to YouTube, watch the Krieger YouTube channel. They do like a basically daily vlog about all the Krieger athletes, and it's so well put together. And obviously the Krieger athletes were very strong throughout. All the women that competed at Tola, all had strong performances. But I really suggest you guys watch that. But Kristen, she was saying that it was wearing on her, but she was happy to be out there, and who knows when we'll see her next.
Matilda Garnitz continues to impress. Amazing. She's competing this week at IF3 with a bunch of the other Krieger athletes. It came down to 2 points between her and Jamie. Could have gone either way. Both of them were phenomenal. Matilda, it was a little bit unfortunate the way that things ended with a mistake from the just a communication error, basically on the competition side. Very few athletes would have taken it in stride the way that she has. The more I've gotten a chance to actually know Matilda as a person besides an athlete this off season, and no matter how good she ever becomes as an athlete, I don't think it will match her person. She is incredible. I actually was talking to Henrik Negar about it, and he's like, "Yeah, man, I'm really lucky to be with her. She is such a sweet person, such a nice person. You don't do this. You don't podium at Dubai twice without being like high level athlete and have this incredible discipline and work ethic." But yeah, Matilda Garnis, incredible performance, incredible personality. Really proud of her and happy her and grateful to know her. Andrea Solberg on Sunday in Dubai is becoming a thing.
Yep.
Let's just say this. On paper, she wasn't going to win that final. On paper, you wouldn't place second on the EMOM that comes down to the row, but you have to. Actually, we got some incredible close-ups of her face during that EMOM, and specifically on the row from the broadcast, the camera work there. Man, it is an incredible level of tenacity that this woman has, like
Yeah.
defining competitor.
And she's not. The thing is, with this competition, she came into it not training full time. She has a full time job or working at a hospital out and out on the, I mean, basically middle of nowhere, Norway. So whenever she gets a chance, she's in the gym, but she's not training like she normally would. And she had some concerns about that, but I think after this finish, I mean, those concerns can kind of be put to rest. I mean, kind of not a bad start, but her finish was just, what can you say? Those last 5 events, a third, an eighth, a second, a fifth, and then of course at first. You like you said, that when it comes to Sundays, she's been owning Sundays the last 2 times she's been in Dubai.
Holta Moistis, we got a comment up here. Andra Moistis has my attention. Yeah, I talked to Andra very briefly after the competition. I told her, you're just getting better and better. The competition after competition, when I see her compete, depending on the field that she's competing against, the results may bump up and down. She podiumed in Finland. She didn't podium here. But she did make the cash. The top 6 are the payouts that you want to be in Dubai. And she beat a bunch of athletes that were, I mean, it was a battle, and she's been showing the capacity to withstand a difficult competition, to withstand a 3-day competition, to understand some of the nuances of managing that. If we look at her results here, like this was the case for a lot of the women, there were some ups and some downs. When you go from a win to an 18th, and that's how you end the day, to come back with 3 straight top 10 finishes, just have that consistent last day performance, and find yourself in kind of the last money spot. There's a lot of positive to walk away from with for Andra Moistis. She's young still. She's got a great career ahead of her if she wants.
Mm-hmm.
I would have to say about Uda here.
Oh, Uda.
I mean, there was no, personally, and I think Patrick would say the same, we had no idea what to expect from her in Vor. They haven't done individual competition like this before. To be fair, we could have asked Seaman and Joachim. They usually know pretty well how they're going to do, but this was impressive to me. Strong performances. I mean, the obstacle race is a very specific test of grip endurance. But look at the other finishes: 1, 5, 7. That's pretty damn good start. Middle day, 10th on elimination, 5th on the EMOM challenge on the last day. She's showing a pretty well-rounded display of fitness here. I don't know if she has any intentions of doing competitions going forward, but as an individual. But if she does, I certainly won't rank her in the bottom 10 next time.
I'll see her this weekend in Budapest. She'll be in Budapest, so looking forward. She'll be competing on a team, I believe, in Budapest. I believe. I can double check, but I'm really interested. I messaged her and I was like, "Hey, thanks for proving me wrong." I picked her 29th, and she made a post about that, and I'm like, I love it. That's great. That's the type of stuff I want to see, and I think she's. Hold on a sec. Oops. Team Norway. Doesn't show the teammates. Sorry. But yeah, I'm very interested to talk to her, get to know her. It's so funny. It's like after the fact, a lot of athletes are telling me, "Yeah, Oda's legit." I'm like, "Well, how come you didn't tell me this before?"
I knew she was strong. I mean,
yeah.
I knew that she was really strong. I knew she had decent power output. I didn't know that she would manage events like the double under
Well,
sandbag toe to bar, the Lazar tribute. I didn't know that you would manage those so well to have top 10
yeah.
finishes.
But yeah, she's a athlete that trains out of Trondheim with Matilda, and then obviously Oslo as well. So you know, have some ginger tea. I wish. I need a NyQuil, shower NyQuil in bed. That's what I need. Yeah, let's
Good
talk
shout out
about.
here.
I mean, um, before we talk about Hannah and Nicole coming off, back to back weekends, she's had a busy off season in terms of competition, back to back, and then she's actually going 3 in a row because she'll be at Budapest this weekend competing at the IF3. She's a staple of the part in the IF3, and then I think she's done until Wadapalooza. Because her, Miriam Van Roy, and who else? The others,
Aline
Elena
Wirtz.
Yeah, Wirtz. They'll be on a team at Wadapalooza. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm pronouncing it how I would pronounce it as an American. So, Elisa Fuliano in 9th. It was she had good events, and she had some events. The obstacle race, she was the only one, men and women, to complete that portion. I forgot what it's called, but it's basically had the odd object.
Well,
type,
it's obstacle number 16.
Yeah, only one to do
the
that
MCs
one.
there were calling it the band cutter. Oh,
but great on her. It's been a busy off season for her as well. And then, let's talk about Hannah Black at 10th. The top North American athlete, top U.S. athlete. It's been a while since we've seen a U.S. athlete podium at Wadapalooza, or not Wadapalooza, sorry, Dubai. But a very impressive. I was very impressed by.
A woman from the U.S. podium in Dubai hasn't happened, I don't think, since 2015. So yeah, that's been a while.
Yeah.
No, Hannah was. I mean, it's one of the things that I talked about. I think probably on the broadcast. I maybe also talked about it in our podcast that we did with Nico in the middle of the competition. Is let the programming run its course. Let the event run its course. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun and okay to look at some certain things, but as I mentioned with Andra, being able to hold up over 3 days, we can look in after 2 days, there were some athletes in podium positions, and one of them didn't even finish in the top 10. Standing up for 3 days of competition the way that Hannah Black did, she capitalized on her strengths. She showed that she's been improving on some weaknesses. They're not amazing finishes. Elimination sprint, sandbag squatting doesn't look that amazing on paper for her, probably. EMOM challenge, I wasn't sure how she'd do it. I think that there's a situation where she could have done a lot worse than that. She hung in there, salvaged a respectable finish, and she closed strong. When the barbells came out, she took advantage of it. And she winds up inside the top 10. I think that she's going to feel really good about this.
Yeah. I mean, it's a hard competition to travel to, especially from the United States. I mean, it's a 13 to 15-hour flight, depending on your layovers. It might be a little bit more. And it's her first, I guess, major competition overseas. And, bravo on her for doing that and taking a chance. Way to kind of put herself out of her comfort zone. I mean, if you had a rate like who we thought from North America would be, be the top athlete amongst the older North Americans, Hannah was probably like second or third, but here she is. Just
I think. I mean, we both had both. I'm pretty sure I had Brittany and Annika ahead of her.
Yeah. And it's also ahead of some games athletes, some athletes who are probably closer to games than she has been the last couple of years as an individual. Ahead of Linda Kiesman, obviously Annika, and then Laura Clifton has competed at the games before. Var Thurman, she's competed on teams. I mean, this second athletes. I mean, this is not a bad group of athletes, and it shows you how competitive it was. These are athletes who, I mean, they have a lot of experience. Many of them have games experience. So it's pretty impressive.
Should we just flip over to the men?
Yeah. Yeah. Say there's no one to talk. I did want to ask you, was Maria Langfors, she withdrew? Was it anything serious or?
She had gotten sick. It looks like she's feeling better.
Okay, good, because she's supposed to be competing at IF3 this week, I believe, on the Swedish team.
Yeah,
on one of the teams. So yeah, competing team. So I look forward to seeing her there. All right, the men's. I guess it just has to start with Luca. I mean, that was into it, and man, I mean, I can only imagine you could hear the emotion in your voice, that final event, and I mean, winning by 106 point. I mean, the 116 points there. I mean, that's pretty impressive. I mean, 106 points. But really, no doubt about it.
Look, I in September when I was with him, he told me he was going to compete in Dubai and he was going there with a different mentality and that his objective in showing up to this competition was to win it. But as far as I know, Lazar had two main goals. One was to win Dubai, one was to podium at the CrossFit Games. And Luca took that upon himself. This was, you can look on paper and see the results as they are. And the final, by the way, was him soaking in the moment. That wasn't him trying to compete to do the fastest time he could do on that event. It was, I think I said on the broadcast, it was very much like Matt Fraser in 2017 in the Fibonacci finale. He would have won by more points. And that's not even half the story. I know from my own life, and I'm sure other people do, that physical exhaustion is hard. Mental exhaustion is hard. And emotional exhaustion dwarfs both of those things. The amount of emotions that this guy has had to go through and endure and figure out how to deal with at 25 years old over the last 4 months is not normal. It's not a fair thing to ask of anyone. And he's handled it, I've said this before and I'd say it again, incredibly impressively. It even comes down to just making good decisions about who he's surrounding himself with. He had his coach, John Singleton, there. He had two of his good friends and training partners, Toby Buckland and Jake Hendry, there. Toby was obviously competing against him. He had one of his best friends from Novi Sad, Goran, come in town to be there with him because he knew that this was going to be an emotional challenge that was even harder than the physical challenge that Dubai always is. And he weathered that storm all the way through. Didn't take it for granted. Didn't think, after I did a day one, day two. No, there was never a time where he lost sight of the goal and his purpose there that weekend. One of the things that you pulled up said full story coming in January 2025. I have no idea how much of that he's going to share with people and to what extent, but I think people will enjoy being able to hear from him a little bit. It made me happy that he actually did an interview with Mike Bourne on Saturday. It was a short interview, a couple of questions. Mike was really, especially for someone who didn't know they're going to be doing that job, he was very good about talking to the athletes, telling them what he was going to ask, prepping them for it. And he cleared with Luca to make sure that the things they were going to talk about were things that Luca was okay talking about. And you got to see him smile on the broadcast during that interview. You saw a very different emotion when he stood on the podium. I posted on Monday, it was Luca's birthday, that he's an inspiration to me. I absolutely meant that. I feel incredibly fortunate for the trust that he showed me these last 4 months and the way that I've gotten to know him that I hadn't previously. And I'm really, despite everything else, I'm just really proud and happy of the man that he's, kind of become through all of this. And any chance that I get to support him, I will.
Yeah. Once again, another athlete proving me wrong. It was funny because when he was giving me some crap about having him second and Moritz first, but after Moritz withdrawing, he became my default, champion. So I'm, I don't have the relationship that you have. Every time I consider him a friend, I consider him someone that every time I see him, he smiles. He will always, just like Lazar would always, say yes to an interview, or just to talk to you, ask you how you're doing. So, you know, it could have happened to a guy, especially regarding the circumstances. And this is cool. It's that's one thing down. He did it. We'll see what the future holds for Luca, but I know one thing is like he loves competing. He's competed, 2 competitions already and done very well. I just look forward to seeing what the future brings to him and what the competition brings to him. Hopefully, we'll see him on the competition floor really soon. And I think it'll be every time he gets on the floor. I mean, I think he he's just he just shows people strength and a way to overcome some grief. So, I think it's a good message for people to see.
It was pretty but last thing I'll say is it was pretty poetic the way that this all played out. That this is exactly right. The male and female athlete with the closest relationships to Lazar won the competition that was the most special one for Lazar. And there's some
Yep.
things that you can't write the scripts for him. It's not the script that anybody would want, but given the circumstances, it is a pretty special thing that it was Karen and Luca who were standing on that podium together for the final picture this year.
Yeah. Our Toby.
Yeah, there's been some comments about this. Shout out to TTT, Linda Annika Toby. Someone was like, "Oh, Toby's TTT," and someone says, "Hand it over to Jake Hendry, who picked him on the podium in our preview show, and he did end up on the podium." I mentioned that Luca and Toby are good friends and train together from time to time. I watched them compete against each other at Sand Clash last year, and I know that it's the last time that I think that Toby's done a live competition because didn't make the semifinal. Luca calls Toby the fittest man who's never made a semifinal. And I think he's probably right about that. I was having a hard time thinking of another athlete that would not have qualified for a semifinal and be as good as this guy is. And part of that is just because of how the qualifying process has been in Europe compared to North America. If CrossFit had any idea what was actually going on in their sport, they would have given a more equal distribution of spots, and we would have seen him at a semifinal before. And then he wouldn't fit that bill. But as it is, yeah, Toby has also put in the work. He's lost 9 kilos, I think, since the last time I saw him. He's had laser focus. I mean, that's one thing that I think sometimes is underappreciated about the best athletes in our sport is that they get really dialed in on a lifestyle, a discipline, a sleep schedule, nutrition plan, attacking specific elements of their fitness, losing weight, but maintaining strength. Toby didn't this isn't a mistake. I think this guy is seriously good and he has the lifestyle, the mental discipline and fortitude to go with the fitness and strength that's required to excel in competition. I'm not saying that he's going to show up in Wadapalooza or the Rogue Invitational or European semifinal and podium yet, but he's on the right track in a very serious way.
Yeah, all it takes is, him committing and making those necessary changes to become an athlete. Last year I kind of compared him to a strength-based athlete that was trying to be a CrossFitter. I saw a completely different athlete. I saw an all-around athlete. His results show. I mean, outside of 2 events, double under strength challenge and elimination sprint, which are two very unique workouts. But after that, 5th, Lazar Tribute 5th, final showdown a 7th, and before that a 6th, a 5th, a 6th, just very well balanced throughout. And he's turned himself into, I mean, if you look at, I'd have to look, but those 3 workouts, which people would probably consider more cardiovascular, I mean, minus the obstacle race, which you're right, the obstacle race wasn't about the run, it was more about the implements. But he, I mean, that was just impressive. It was, and I'm proud of him. He said it too, like kind of like, hold my beer. And I think I not only held his beer, but I bought him a couple rounds too. And I think I owe him a couple rounds afterwards. But that's cool.
If you can, Patrick, pull up his Instagram. He put up a post after the fact, and I watched a movie on the plane coming over here that I didn't know existed. It was about the last 12 days of Roger Federer's career, and it gave me a deeper insight into his relationship with Rafael Nadal than I'd ever understood before. And this post that Toby put up, I don't know which one of these it is, honestly, but he put up a post that basically said, second is still second. And I mean, he took second to his friend, his brother, the guy who's grieving and mourning and has just achieved something that, we described as like superhuman type stuff. And the mentality of Toby is still that wasn't my goal. No one thought I could do this, and I did it, but it wasn't what I came there to do. That's the mentality I'm talking about, of a champion, of a serious competitor. So Toby Buckland absolutely has my attention. Very curious and eager to see when the next time we'll see him compete is. And I don't, he's kind of in that it's a very difficult athlete for me to project where he actually is on the global landscape of things, but he's coming.
Yeah, I can. He might be like kind of like the next coming of Elliot Simmons out of that region. Elliot is very similar, where he was an X spot from the UK. Elliot did make the games, kind of an unknown, and Elliot, due to injuries, he hasn't really had the career that you thought he would have. But I think Toby, if he stays healthy, I think he has a chance to become, something very special, because he's still young, really young. So, yeah, I mean, and I think he's like 25, 26, right?
I think they both are.
Yeah, which is fun, because I mean, these are 2 guys, like you said, that whenever Luca is in the Middle East, he trains with Toby, and they've become really good friends and training partners whenever they're around each other. So this is really cool. I mean, this is probably something that Luca needs too. We all know that his brother was his best friend. A lot of his, but having
let me throw this out there now that you've brought it up. Callum Clements, top 10 finish, 27 years old. Luca just turned 26 on Monday. Spencer Panchik's still only 28. Benoit Boulanger, 25. Victor Helsinghoff is only 24. Ben Fowler's 23. Luis Cuellar is 22. Nika Maizaradze, 22. Anestis Artemis, 24. Jan Finkenberg, 6. Mirko Liliorg, 26. Toby's 25. Gabby Castro, who had to withdraw with a shoulder displacement, was 23. Yeah. You want to know where the next wave of athletes are coming up? Because this is not just a North American sport. These guys are good, and they're young, and they're coming. I mean, every single one of those guys, we don't want to stay on here for 2 hours tonight, but we could talk in depth about a lot of those guys, and we will have opportunities to do it, to talk about more and more of them. If you're looking for the quote unquote future of the sport, you don't have to look that far. They're right there.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned all those young guys. Let's talk about the Masters there. This master athlete that finished 3rd there. What a performance by Braun. I mean, just back to back. I mean, he came off finishing 2nd at Belgrade, and we kind of it was kind of one of those, the programming kind of really favored Braun. Well, on paper, the programming here probably didn't really favor Braun. But yet Braun went out there and performed, an event win, and it wasn't an event win in the event you thought it would win in. He actually got 3rd in that workout, which was the heavy complex. But The obstacle race, a solid ninth place. Double unders and strength challenge 10th. Elimination sprint a 4th. The EMOM challenge, which is a lot. The time domain, it's a long workout. You wouldn't expect Braun to do win that. The Lazard tribute first, and then a showdown a 4th. What a performance by him, especially those last 2 events.
He's had a great year. I mean, I've talked
ahead.
about it for the last 3 years. I think that 35 to 39 division for the men is ridiculously hard to win. There's so many people who do it. There's so many good athletes in that age range. He got 3rd place there. It's incredible. He got podium in Belgrade against some of these athletes. He got a podium finish here against a bigger field of a similar caliber of athlete. He's still really, really good. And that workout that he won, actually, he's won a workout similarly to that in Dubai before, where it was a down and back chipper and the weightlifting element was a critical part of it. He's got most of the gymnastic skills are good. I stood next to Braun once. Never again. That guy is a monster.
He does look like, I mean, I've heard people call him before, but if you get to know him, he's a very a really just mild-mannered, really cool dude. But he does look like some type of Bond villain, But he's just such a good dude, and it's been a great offseason for him. I mean, I think he podiumed at Double Trouble with Julia. Yeah, it's been.
Did I tell you what the judging team was calling Julia?
Yeah, I figure you're laughing because I did pronounce her last name. So, but go ahead.
Her last name's hard to pronounce. I had her actually speak all of the Polish names to me, and I was trying really hard to do them well on the broadcast. But they were like, I played it for them, and they're like, no, we're just going to call her Julia Blaze.
That's
amazing.
That's a pretty cool name. I mean, I'd go with it. But
hell yeah.
But yeah, Braun's another example. Again, him and Luca Lazar just kind of just doing that European circuit, dipping into Dubai and a couple other Middle East competitions, which is easy for them to do because it's not that bad of a flight. So yeah.
Lynn, love DXB programming athletes, got to know some stunners, Toby, Oda, others, Mike in the commentating booth. Really appreciate comments like this. Indoor events were the best commentary in the field. You and Lucy killed it. As I mentioned at the onset, awesome to get a chance to work with her. CJ, I like this roster because you don't really know who ends up where. Yeah, it was what I would say to a lot of the athletes in the days prior to the competition is, yeah, on paper, especially the female athletes, you see Karen Frey and you think, yep, she's probably the one to beat. After that, it wasn't that obvious. There was a lot of opportunity, and not just for second and third, but for those 4 through 6 positions, for the top 10 position. And it was really fun to watch because it's unknown. And there were a lot of good performances, bad performances, bouncing back and forth, changes on the leaderboard. We can talk about this real quick. Bummer that no German steel. Moritz had to withdraw with the food poisoning. Sucked. I mean, you think he would have been in contention for the podium. He thinks he would have been in contention for the win. I don't have any reason to really doubt him on that. We both picked him in the top 2 spots. The competition would have taken a different shape without him, but that's not out of his control, and it's a bummer. So hopefully we get to see Moritz again soon, because from the conversations I've had with him and what I saw in Belgrade, I think he's genuinely as fit as he's ever been.
I agree, and we'll talk about that about Moritz here later on. But Michael Wazlowski, I mean, just a very strong performance right up from the get go, finishing just out of the podium. It's cool to kind of see him back. I mean, we saw him 2 years ago. He made it to the games, won the final qualifiers. I think he was the last qualifier, right, out of the men's division, out of German. Was it German throw? German throwdown.
It was either him or Fabian Benito. They were like the last 2 guys.
Yeah, but kind of underwhelming at the games. But then we kind of really hadn't heard much from him. He didn't really last year's semifinals. Really was never in contention for one of those game spots. But looks solid. And he did it in probably the ugliest way too. I mean, the guy just didn't look like he wanted. He didn't look like he knew how to ride a bike, but wanted a bike. Same with some of the other things. But he doesn't make it look pretty, but he gets the job done. And then Tola, we had that conversation the other day. It was so cool to see Tola, finish fifth, and to see him celebrate when he crossed that finish line when he won that event. I mean, you don't see that much emotion from Tola during the competition, but he seemed like he was having fun, even in the weightlifting. When he looked over there and looked over at Seaman, and he's getting his weights, and that was just really cool. It's really cool to see Tola because this is Tola's third time around at Dubai. He keeps on coming back, and he was rewarded with the fifth place. So it's really cool. And then, again, I think top three they get cash prize as well, 3, 2, 1, right?
I'm not entirely sure on that, but I
Right.
mean, sometimes it's I kind of knew that the last day of programming was going to be really good for him on paper, but he still has to go out there and do it. And the performances that he laid down there on Sunday were awesome and fun to watch. And the lifting is the lifting, but he's always had this capacity on specific events to kind of just like stun the field, and he did that on the final. And it helped propel him inside the points here. It was pretty tight. Look, he ended on 6:02. He's only 8 behind Wesolowski. He was only 11 ahead of Spencer. Spencer was only 1 ahead of Luis and 4 ahead of Callum. And those are the money spots. It's not a 50,000, but it's a $5,000 payday. I mean, it's possible it's his biggest ever individual paycheck. Where we were talking about Beetle Extravaganza, I'm not sure what they paid out, but
Ortega, what they pay out to win Beetle Extravaganza? You're in the comments. What was the payout for that? But then he won an event, and I do believe he got like 3,000. The top three did get something. It might have been 3,1,500 or something like that. But I think event wins got you 3,000.
I think it was 1,500, 1,500. Because 3,000 maybe total per event, something like that.
It might be something like that. Just the number 3 just sticks out in my head. But either way, it's just like that's cool. He's walking around with that, and then so great job by Tola. Spencer, I think you had him rated a little bit lower than I did, but he finished at 6. It's cool to see. It's nice to see that he looked good. Nothing spectacular, but that's kind of like how Spencer is. I mean, he doesn't do one single thing spectacular. He's just good all around. I think that's what we end up seeing from Spencer. It's seeing back.
Yeah, and look, I mean, those guys, the 5 guys that beat him, are significantly bigger than him.
Yeah,
and it did seem like it. The programming trended towards the bigger athletes, but Spencer, like Jamie Simmons, is a really good weightlifter, and he's able to maximize his weightlifting like efficiently, cycling the barbell for the snatches and the overhead squats or the clean and jerks. He's still able to put good lifts on the board. So he weathered the storm. He finished really, really well. And that goes a long way. That we often see that you can make big moves on a final like he did. And he's done it before, by the way. So nice finish to the competition. Nice. Probably really feels good for him to get back into the mix. After
why don't you talk
an underwhelming semifinal?
Why don't you talk about the 2 Spaniards here?
Dude, I mean, I had picked Callum to do even better than this. I picked Luis to do worse than this, but he was the one guy that I identified, I think, in our middle range, like our 11 through 20 picks. There were guys we both had that I said, watch out for this guy to potentially sneak into the top 10. He's a lot younger. He's 22, I think. Callum's more like 27. These guys are good. They're improving. I love that they're doing competitions like this, because in Spain, they do a lot of competitions against the other Spaniards, and it's kind of like everyone's taking shots at each other. But the Spanish athletes had started to sort of branch out a little bit, and a few competitions in Spain, including like the Pixel Pamplona games we were at last year, are starting to find ways to bring better international competition to Spain. And I think that very similarly to what Lazar and Luca did when they were on their way up. They would travel around the area in the Balkans and then in Western Europe and then in the Middle East and just get competition experience against different style of athletes with different style of programming, learn how to travel and compete. And Luis Cuellar is pretty good at a pretty young age and doing those things. So I would say, he's 5 years younger than Callum, and he's having a pretty similar output here. Now, Callum did break through and make the games this year. Luis has made semifinals twice in the last 2 years in Europe, and we know how hard it is for a male athlete to qualify to the semifinals in Europe. So the guy's good. He's well-rounded. He's talented. He's gonna be around, and he's gonna do better than this in competitions.
Yeah, kind of performances, but nothing worse than looks like a 19th. But then I think how many top fives? 3 top fives, I think, and then 5 top tens, maybe 1, 2, 3.
This is a
4,
tough
5.
question.
Yeah,
Any of these guys have Adler potential? I mean, I don't. Look, Jeff Adler is climbing the ranks of all-time greats. His potential. I think that, just without necessarily don't kill me for the comment, but you could argue that he's in the top 7 of all time already with the credentials that he's had. Maybe top 10, 12. I don't know. So it's a big ask. And when you talk about a guy like Luis Cuellar that's 22 years old, it's really difficult to know what's going to happen over the next 8 years because Adler's about 30. But he clearly has a good foundation. He moves really well. He's getting competition experience. I just think that it's hard to know the plateau for someone like that. Similar with Toby. My instinct is no, that there's not anyone in this field who's going to become one of the 10 best of all time, but it's not impossible.
Never say never, especially we've seen it in the women's field where some of these women have, that started off at Dubai are now top 10, all time.
Yes, I'm in Vienna for one more night.
Round out the top 10, Jake Douglas, where we talked about uneven finishes, a guy wins a weightlifting event, finishes second in a sprint event. Like I said, on the run was outstanding. Just really good performance by Jake.
Yeah, he put up a post, and I think I put a comment on there just to say, man, it's great to see you back in the fight. He was great 2 years ago at semis, not so great last year. Had a good offseason event on a team of 2.
Looks like he's having fun.
Yeah, and he's another guy if you similar to Braun, standing next to him, you're like, God, this guy he's got a different body, man. It's wild, but but he is he's a really fun person to spend time with. And he said about this run, if you haven't heard me say it already, he's like, I'm not going to win the 5K, but I can run. Give me a 400, give me an 800, give me a 1K. I'll run well. And it wasn't his only stronger finish or even stronger finish of the weekend. Jake is incredible. Jake has massive personality and muscles. So yeah, fun to have Jake Douglas out there.
And 10 is Georgios. He again, I think he's finished top 10 every time he's competed at Dubai. So that's just good. It's awesome. Even Fraser mentioned Karavis. He's one of those guys who we weren't sure about his health, how his back would hold up, but he looked good. He won an event like he always does. It seems like he always finds one event that he just does really well at Dubai and helped vaulted him into a top 10 finish.
He was not top 10 in his first appearance there, 2018, but the last 3 years and this year, he's been 8th, 10th, 10th, 10th.
Yep.
He's got the streak of Jason Hopper at Rogue. 3 consecutive finishes at the same spot. 2
Yeah.
faves in the field, Braun and Jake. That's right. Oh, short break for my training session. Wanted to pop in and say hi. What's up, Mike?
Nice. What's up, Mike? New, I think proven now. I think that's what Mike's doing. I think he's doing proven now.
I
So
think he tries a lot of different programs, or maybe even mixes and matches some. He's like the guys.
match, yeah.
But I wanted to address this comment from AstroSurf. Do you think there will be a Dubai event? Yes, or as there seemed to not be absolutely no crowd? Is such an event even sustainable? There's never been a big crowd in Dubai. There are things about right now the Dubai Fitness Championship is primarily, or maybe even exclusively, supported by the Dubai Sports Council. And the Dubai Sports Council is allotted a certain amount of money from the year to invest in sports. And so they get the DFC, just like, I don't know, 1,000 other events that Dubai hosts over the course of the year for a variety of different sports and entertainment, gets a budget. And then they're allowed to put on whatever the event they want is within the context of that budget. They're not like trying to get ticket sales to offset a cost, something like that. So the fact that there's not a lot of fans in the stands is not a reason that the event would go away. The event would go away if the Dubai Sports Council was no longer funding it, or if there was nobody there to run it the way that Saud has been doing for so long. Sure.
Kind of like, yeah, kind of like what I said at the beginning. It's like, I didn't know when I must have missed the memo where crowd size is a measure of how good your competition is. Yeah, it's certainly great to have a crowd, but I mean, it really is. But I don't think that's a true measure of throwing. Some people, I mean, people brought it up a lot, like the West Coast Classic. Didn't have a lot of. Did that make that a terrible competition? No, not at all. I mean, athletes still go out and compete whether there's a crowd there or not. So, end of the day, that's just how it's going to be. They're not actively trying to market. That's kind of the least of their concerns, is bringing a crowd. Obviously they like a crowd there, and even when they had the top athletes there with Frazier, with Noah's, with Vellner's and Fikowski, they didn't bring it in. So
it was a little bigger. The crowd was a little bigger, but it wasn't anything, stunning. Not a bad question. Nika Bajradze, not inside the top 10. Am I going to stop putting him in the top 10? Depends on the competition. He's had top 10 finishes at other competitions, but at competitions of this size right now, he's still just not well-rounded enough. He can win events. He can have top 5 finishes. The strength isn't there. Some of the execution stuff isn't there. He had basically he totally bombed the elimination workout. He got almost no points for that. I think 7 points, and he was only like 20 points outside of the top 10. So it's not like crazy pick to have him inside the top 10, but I think, Patrick, you might have had him in the top 5, and that's probably something that we won't be doing again too recently in a field like this, because he needs to kind of earn that. Like, we see some potential there, but he doesn't have the complete picture of a top 5 athlete in a field like this yet. So this is only the second real competition that we've seen him compete in. The Eurasia Throwdown was like, okay, this guy's got some skills, some talent, some capacity. But between semifinals and now we have 2 data points. That's kind of a good kind of painting for now of where he's at and where he's not at.
Yeah. That pretty much wraps up Dubai. Let's talk about the other one on this weekend. I guess if you can call it was a competition, but it was more of a showcase, was FitFest. We kind of hinted on it, hint on it a few times without actually saying it. But yeah, I was going regardless because I wanted to check it out. I heard so many things about it in terms of it. Hey, this is an event you want to go to live. And so I did. And prior to going there, we were asked if we would do a live stream of it. Unfortunately, due to the last minute nature of it, and me not being able to get off work the following day, and having to take the last flight out of Birmingham, which was at 5:30 at night, we were only able to do 7 of the 9 events, and we weren't able to kind of market it and tell people about it till the day of. It actually like literally just popped up. And but I will say I had a great time. The venue, I mean, it is what it's cracked up to be in terms of it being a fitness festival. Um, and the athletes seemed like they had a great time. The crowd seemed like they had a great time. They did a lot of engagements with the athletes. The team there with Mark Morgan and the guys from Strength and Depth, they did a good job of throwing a CrossFit portion and a good community event alongside with it, along with other things and other activations. So I had a fun time doing it.
Yeah, you got to meet Gavin and Ian from CrossFit Glasgow. They're largely responsible for the organization, programming, planning of the strength and depth events all throughout the year, the UK Championships, SID Origins, and FitFest. And those guys are phenomenal. They're really good at what they do. And the athletes, I'm not sure if they know that it's those guys that are doing it, but the athletes talk about how great the experience is there because of what they do on the back end. So I'm happy that you were able to go there. Uh, I'm happy that we were able to provide a live stream of it. I mean, without advertising at all, it's already, I think, on B.Friendly Fitness, I think it's second to Belgrade Games in terms of the most views that we've had for any of the competitions we've streamed. Maybe it's approaching 30,000 total views now across all the events you streamed, and that was without the final. So I think it definitely answered the question of, you had a showcase event with some big time athletes, and you have a last minute broadcast that's not announced with a guy who's never done. You've never done that before. You were learning on the fly. Roger was teaching you how to do it, and people want to watch it. It goes back to what I was saying about the first events of Dubai. Like, stop being so critical about those things. Just appreciate the fact that we're getting to watch it, and that people are making that possible.
Yeah, it was. I mean, yeah, there was a little bit of nerve kind of taking over the control from you and kind of doing a 1-man crew, but I had fun doing it, and well, thank you, and yeah, I just thought it was really cool. I mean, the floor is really spread out for one person because they had it was basically a 20 lane competition floor, and they put everyone like the opposite end, so. I didn't get as much coverage as I wanted to, so I tried to find the most compelling storyline and follow them. So yeah, still learning. Got to remember to hit that mute button or unhit it, and yeah, it was fun.
I've made that mistake.
I know, yeah.
Even after months and months of experience. So
yeah, so. But that's one of those things that I'm glad we were able to do that because it shows that, we've talked about it where there's been a couple of people that have reached out to us saying, hey, will you do our competition? And, we already have something planned, but now we know that we can do it, to kind of do it split. There's a couple of competitions in the future that we might have to do that where maybe you're in one location, I'm in another, and we just do our thing. But that's why we do it. Like Brian said at the beginning of the show, we do this because of the athletes and the fans. I will say, once I showed up, a lot of athletes were excited. They were asking me, "Oh my God, there's a stream!" So there are a lot of them were putting out that there's a stream, and because these athletes, especially the ones from North America, or I'm sorry, rest of the world, they weren't able to bring their families, but they wanted the kind of they had fans that wanted to watch it. So I think that's where it's very telling to see that the numbers from the views they continue to rise, especially since we didn't have that many. I mean, we had Lynn and Ortega. We had the normal crew, about 50, 100 strong during a live feed. But then now to look at it now and seeing that there's 9,000 views on something, so that's really cool. So hopefully we get to do it next year, and maybe with a little bit more advance notice. So that way we can, share it with more people. Oh, yes, Sarah. My gosh. It was like to see Sarah, especially in that clean ladder. She didn't win her matchup, but she looked so good and she looked so happy. And yeah, I had an interview with her, and hopefully you guys can watch it. I thought it was really cool. I asked her a question about Katrin, and she pretty much said that no, she she's still having fun. So she's not retiring anytime soon, which is kind of cool.
Any anything you want to say about Lucy McGonigal?
Gosh. I think Peter, he's got something coming out with her where he spent like 24 hours with her, like from morning to evening or whatever. And I believe he actually followed her. She got her L1 while I was in Ireland. And he mentions on the shows like how focused she is. And she just looked. I think she probably had the most. I think if you had to pick an MVP for Team Europe, she was probably it, because I think she competed in every event, all 9 events. I have to look, but and when she competed,
damn.
yeah, and when she competed, she held her own. Like, she went head to head on the clean ladder against who'd she go against? I'm trying to remember who she went against. But anyways, she was winning, and then it just came down to that last barbell. And missed it, but she looked really good cycling the barbell, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah, the people who I know who know Lucy McGonigal well and know her, quite frankly, better than I do, have told me like she's coming. Don't forget, like she's got some special skill sets and talents and life circumstances, the kind of culmination of the things that are necessary for an athlete to really excel. And like our Roman said here, she looked experienced, like an experienced athlete, and she's only 17 years old. And I know there were some conversations earlier about some other young athletes that have had success in the sport at a young age, and she's kind of seems like she's sliding into that mold of an athlete who can be 17 to 20 years old and relevant in the women's field. I don't know if it's Mallow Bryant, 2nd place relevant, Emma Carey, 7th place relevant, Emma Lawson, Haley. I don't know if it's that level or not. I don't know how many years off that is, but she seems to be trending up big time.
I've seen her live quite a few times. I know you have too at semifinals, but I've seen her as competing as a teen athlete. I remember when she was a 14-year-old and finishing on the podium, which is very hard to do as a 14-year-old, to be the younger portion and finish on the podium, and then winning it as a 15-year-old, and then again winning it as a 16-year-old. But she does give me like Emma Carey vibes, in terms of ceiling. And I don't want to cap her on that. It's hard to cap a 17-year-old and be like, oh no, that's as good as she is. Especially when the person we're comparing her to is not even 21 herself. So, she's very impressive. And she's only getting better. I'm very impressed by the way she carries herself. She has a great team with Snorri and Lucille that kind of mentoring her through. Her and Ella Wilkinson, Ella, who started kind of young. Ella's 24 now. They seem to have a very good relationship. I think Ella's kind of showed a little mentorship. And I think, it was really cool for like Sarah to be a part of that group too. And Emma McQuaid, because you have two women that, if you're a UK athlete or from the Isle or from Ireland, that's who you're looking up to, is someone like Emma. But if you're a teen athlete, you're probably looking up to Sarah as well. So it's pretty cool to have that. And then BKG, I mean, it's a really good experience for those young athletes. And it's really cool. I really like this competition. I really like the setup. Hopefully this team, showcase is pretty cool. And I do too. I know, was it Jonathan mentioned something about, or Jeffrey mentioned something about standards and stuff like that. And I get it. Yes, but at the same time, just enjoy it. Just enjoy it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's nothing on
look. The movement standard conversation is not. Go finish up.
This competition had nothing on the line. It was just, it was a showcase of performance and athletes. And then, Emma McQuaid's getting a lot of grief for her whatever. But then find out that she hurt herself, and that could be the reason why that wasn't. I mean, let me pull up that post. It looked surgery. I'll have to find out But that bike legs pending, glad to be on the road. It's like, she looks like she had to do something with her wrist. So maybe that had something to do with it. And here we are, just jumped to the conclusion saying that she's purposely, purposely, like, I don't know, shaving reps or not doing correctly. But
in
I don't know.
always in general, the movement standards conversation is definitely not an irrelevant one. But for FitFest, it's very different than other competitions. In that, at FitFest, the workouts are changing at the last minute per conversations that the athletes are having with the event organizers. Amelia subbed in on the last event because they were short of a person. It's not a competition. It's possible that Emma McQuaid was standing in the back saying, I want to do this event, but I can't get into a front rack. And the person that's going against her goes, who cares? Let's just do it for fun. Like you don't know all of the variables there for this one. So it's I would have to echo what Patrick said. Like it's a little different than being critical of something like Dubai where there's massive money on the line. So ebbs and flows to that conversation, specifically with regards to, this isn't like rogue saying we're showcasing the athletes. This is legitimately a showcase. There's nothing on the line, like Patrick said, in terms of money. And so on the one hand, you can say, what is an exhibition if you don't exhibit? Yeah, one thing you can say is, shouldn't we be showing people in a competition like this what good movement standards are, especially because there's nothing on the line? I could totally get behind that argument. But knowing from the athletes and from the organizers that they're willing to have some flexibility on things that they normally wouldn't, I just think it probably would go back to what Jonathan said with regards to FitFest. I'm not that interested in this conversation. With regards to Dubai, I'm much more open to having the conversation.
Yeah. But I mean, as someone who judged and used to uphold people to the standards, I still do. I'm all about that. But at the same time, I'm also about like, hey, just, again, there's so many views you could take this, and I get it, and I'm all about it. I wasn't there to see it live. I'm also one of those people, if I see something, I'm going to call it out. I didn't see anything that was, inadvertent, like someone was purposely trying to shave reps or whatever. But it's also not my job to do that. I mean, that's what you have. They had judges there.
Sorry. Yes.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. But anyways, well, best of luck to Emma. I know it's been rough for Emma. It really has the last 2-3 years. I really hope that she recovers soon. I'm glad she was able to I mean, she competed at Road, competed here. So it's cool to see her at she was having a lot of fun at. It was good to see. So best of luck. Happy, safe, and fast recovery to you, Emma. But that was FitFest. So overall, good time. A lot of things to offer. It doubled the size from last year, and they're already talking about it doubling again next year. And this place is this venue is ridiculously huge. Yeah, I had to walk through the venue to get to the actual venue. I mean, the venue has its own. It's hard to explain, but this venue also has its own has a train station, a monorail to it. It has like restaurants. I mean, it's like if the Mall of America was a conference center. That's how big it is, and it's huge.
I used to work in the Mall of America.
Oh, I did not know that. But they only had 4 of the halls, and they had halls 17 through 20. So there's another 16 halls, probably about the size of that weren't being used. So
wow,
yeah. What else? Okay, so we'll talk about IF3 real quick, and then you can talk about what you have going on this weekend. But I'll be heading over to.
That's what I was thinking. Take platform 9 3/4.
What's that?
That's what I was thinking when you were talking about the. Ironically, Fit and I are on the same page. Ignore me.
Yeah, sorry, I'm on a different screen. IF3 Worlds are this weekend. Why should you care? I think it's another fitness competition. It's something that they've been trying to do for a while, trying to legitimize and make fitness maybe an Olympic sport. If you watch the format of it, it's not really cross. It's functional fitness. I mean, they have different tests. They're labeled different things, but they have representation from around the world. We can kind of look over the mail here. I actually kind of made some notes. Um, you know, some of these names are probably not familiar, especially on the men's side. But once you start getting, when we get to the women's side, you'll know some familiar name. But here's some two. The Swede. This is a really big competition if you're from Norway, Sweden, Finland, because their governments actually fund teams and pay for the training camps and send them to this competition. Hugo Jansen. The U.S. is sending some athletes there, and the athletes they're sending are, some of you might know the name, Cale Lehman. He did really well in the Open last year. He trains out of he's actually a cadet at West Point. So he's actually going to miss the Army Navy game this weekend to compete at this competition. And Jack Rosema will be competing as well, representing Team USA and the U.S. Army Fitness Team. Some other notable names: Ben Woodcock from Tom Kingdon from the United Kingdom. Colin Bosshart's competing in this as well. This is something he won. I believe he won it last year.
Not the best spelling here, but yes, Colin Bossard won it last year. Hungary, it's in Budapest. That is correct. And is it streaming? Do we know if it's streaming?
They said there is a stream. I haven't gotten information on that yet, but as soon as I do, I'll make sure that we
We'll
do,
if there's a stream, we will post it on B.Friendly Fitness Instagram.
Yes. Yeah. Victor Helsinghoff, who's coming. A lot of these athletes, especially from Norway, these Krieger athletes, he's not a Krieger athlete anymore, but they're coming straight from Dubai to Budapest. So, and then we talked about Henrik. He wasn't in Dubai, was he? Was he there with Matilda?
No. He had thought about coming with, but she told me that he was prioritizing this. So he's going there.
Yeah.
I think he got 8th place last year. I think he's,
Yeah.
trying to do quite well.
Yeah. And he looked good. He looked really good at you said he looked good at Belgrade games, so he'd probably be another guy fighting for the podium. And like I said, Jack Rosema will be there. It'll be good to see Jack. Jack hasn't done a competition since the games. But that's the men's side. Again, you have so many different countries being represented here.
Well, and you see there's some guys from Saudi Arabia there. I mean, what you don't want to forget about the IF3 is that the IF3 was started by a CrossFit Games athlete. Gretchen Kittleberger competed at the games in the later stages of the Carson era, and she was already noticing things about what was happening there that have continued to be frustrating for athletes. And so she tried to create something that was an alternative that was much more like a sport than a game, that had a more structured system that could potentially see fitness at the Olympics. The Olympic only takes sports, they don't take games, unless it's, I guess some people would argue maybe there were some suspect ones this year. But anyway, that was the idea. And she could have quit at any point. It's been hard going. It's been a lot of no's and a lot of closed doors and not a lot of financial support for a long time. And she's continued to sought out different means to get into different countries, get into different parts of the world, integrate with governments to support athletes. It's an incredible undertaking and commendable commitment that she's shown through this time period. And there are countries like Saudi Arabia that are now supporting athletes, and they're going to have representatives here. The U.S. is starting to have more and more representation. The Scandinavians were the forerunners of this, and that's why they've been at the top of it. But there's other countries that are going to be coming up, and this is another thing that I think could become a viable option for, maybe not as the only thing that athletes are doing, but as a subsidiary thing that athletes are doing. I think really what we're going to see this year is that athletes will, instead of just singularly prioritizing the games and then seeing what else there is, that they'll be kind of hedging their bets with a couple different things. I would expect that the next year's version of the IF3 is going to be even more stout of a roster than this one.
I think so too, and I think I think what the next step is to have maybe some type of incentive for athletes too. I'm not saying a prize purse for at all. Maybe not, because that's one of the things with Olympic sports is that there isn't a prize purse. The countries they represent provide them monetary compensation, but the Olympics themselves do not. And I think that's part of the reason why they don't have like a prize purse at this, is because they want to set it up that way, where you know um, the country that you're representing will provide that incentive, and not the governing body. But we'll take a look at the women's field. It's much more stacked in terms of athletes, and you'll notice this has typically been a competition where the Norwegians dominate, and Steen is one of those favorites. I would say there's gonna be quite a few favorites. Actually, there'll be some familiar names here, but starting off with her, Angelica Bengtsson. And then we're right there at number 10 is Camilla Salmonson-Hellman. Games athlete in 2018, I believe, in 2019, and is looking good. She Brian knows a little bit more about her than I do, but she just recently had a baby maybe a year ago, and she's just trying to get back into competition shape. She competed at Dubai last year, did really well, had a top 10 finish. She competed at Belgrade. I believe she was top 5 at Belgrade, correct?
Yeah, and I just went to check because I thought it was 3 times, 18, 19, and 20 she competed at the
Yeah,
games.
that's right. She
In
competed on the
online in 20, it's kind of weird, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I remember 18. I remember vividly her in 18 and then 19 as a national champion. But she's definitely has to be considered a favorite. Georgia Davenport, and we brought up Ella Wilkinson. She looks finally healthy, completely recovered from an Achilles tear and some other injuries she's had. For the U.S., Lydia Smith. Who else? There's coming across some more. Sorry. And then we have Matilda Garnes. She's the defending champion. So I believe this will be defending 3-time champion. I believe she won it in 2022, 23, and 24. Ingrid Tondo. She's normally competing on a team, usually one of the Oslo teams. She's competing individual this year. Very strong, very underrated. Nicole here, who you know very well. Miriam van Roer, who won the Open this past year, and the former High Rocks athlete. She competed in this last year. I believe she podiumed. So she's someone to keep an eye out on. Emma Harving and Ava George, both on the Army Warrior Fitness team. They'll be making their international debut. Julia Hogard Nielsen, she's been at the games a couple times, I believe, on a team.
She represented Denmark in 2019 for sure. I don't think she's ever made it back there after that. Yeah, she's only actually ever done 2 events at the games, but she did represent Denmark.
Yeah, but she's someone that we've seen compete not only at semifinals, but we've also seen her compete at Dubai. Tin, another from Denmark as well. And you see there's an athlete from Saudi Arabia. So you have 54 athletes there. A little bit more deeper field on the women's side. So it should be fun to watch. And then on the team, they do have a team. I mean, they have a bunch of divisions. They have a lot of teenage divisions, masters division. Our own, one of our friends from the Morning Chocolate, Scotty. Scotty will be competing in the masters male, I think 35 to 39. Let me check for that.
No way.
I believe
I think he and Chad are in the same age division. They were talking about it in Colorado. But that's so, that guy's, he impressed me. We did some, he and Chad did some erg workouts, and Chad's a big guy and pretty fit himself. And Scott was holding his own with them. There he is.
So his wife Nikki they've actually been there the last week. They just made a vacation out of it. So it'd be cool to see Scotty and Nikki and just kind of follow their their journey. But they also have teams division. Usually Norway wins the team division. I don't see that changing this year. especially since that team actually has Vesla Moy on it, who's a team veteran, and then like I said, Oda. The Swedish team has Maria Lengfors on it, and then I think the other team to watch is Great Britain. Yeah, so that's basically in a nutshell the IF3 this weekend. I'll be providing some coverage of it. Don't know extent where, but I plan on doing maybe some vlogging and behind the scenes as well. Oh, okay. Yeah. And then Brian's gonna be, where are you gonna be at? You're in Austria now. Where you're on your way to, I don't know where you're going
Milan.
to.
Go to Milan
Go to
for
Milan.
the
Fall Series Throwdown. So
yeah, go to Milan for the Fall Series Throwdown. Do you have something prepped for that?
I will. I mean, I can pull up
Okay.
their Instagram.
I was just going to pull this up
Pardon?
just to show
Yeah.
some of the athletes competing there. It's there's a lot of Italian athletes. There's if you look at the women's field here, there's two from Albania, Sirimeha and Jonas Skendaj. Sirimeha has become more recognizable this year after making the semifinals and having a good showing in Belgrade games. I would think she's probably the favorite. Joanna got on my radar last year at this competition. Not a super deep field on the women's side, so we'll see how it goes. And then on the men's side, there's actually a much bigger field, but these are sort of the highlighted athletes that are in the field. Stefano Migliorini is now a Masters athlete. The guy's been one of the better athletes in Italy for a decade. Spyros was there last year. He's a young guy coming out of Greece. Georgia Juric has had some success there in the past. He won the Athens Throwdown last year. He was in Belgrade. And as always, there's going to be some new guys that we learn about. I was just looking through the stuff. I see like Christos Diavras, it's 23. I see Gianmarco Borsellino is 21. Christian Tasca is 23. A little further down, guy from Spain who's only 21. So I'm sure we'll see some fun performances there. But it's the longest running competition in Italy. They have a ton of different divisions. I'll just be streaming the elite division. But it's always fun to, last year was like my first time to meet that community, integrate with those guys. And then over the course of the year, you stay in touch with them, they follow what they're doing, and to go back and see them again a year later, I'm looking forward to it. I don't know that I'll do any shopping in Milan, but Jeff, if you send me your shoe size or something, maybe you'll get lucky. You can pull up their Instagram if you want. I don't know. But there were a few comments in here about one other event that's going on this weekend. IWF weightlifting championships in Bahrain. From the CrossFitting world, Laura Horvath and then Tori Helgadottir are going to be involved in that competition. Dino Smajic, who was a training partner of Luka Jukic in the run-up to Belgrade games. And I think they may have done the qualifiers for Dubai together. He competed as a team at Belgrade games, and he'll be doing that one. So if you're into the weightlifting world, I'm sure Barbell Spin will be tracking that as they always do. And it'll be interesting to see how well some of those. It always is when the CrossFit athletes go and compete in the weightlifting.
So
you're on mute
again.
Oh, now you're back.
Still a busy weekend. Not as busy or not as high status as last weekend, but it's still fitness, still CrossFit going on this weekend. So again, that's what we'll have going on in our channel. And like I said, I'll be filming some stuff as well from the IF3s, anything. So, but yeah, I think that's about it in terms of competition wise, what we're doing. Kind of slow on news. I think, like I said, I saw what Emma McQuaid put up. I thought that was some news. Those who watch Peter's, Brian brought it up earlier regarding Wodapalooza. A lot of names are being announced, including some teams. And I think on Peter's podcast with Nick Johnston, he mentioned they announced Kyra Milgren, Danny Spiegel, and Olivia Kerstetter as a team for Wodapalooza. So that should be a pretty formidable team.
Well, much more significantly than that, they announced Jeff Adler today.
Yeah. Yep.
And so now you have Jeff Adler and Laura Horvath announced to compete there, who did not compete at the games last year. and Laura's never competed there before. We're going to have something coming out with regards to that. And Adler hasn't competed there since he got completely screwed in one of the most egregious judging mishaps I've ever seen in competition in 2019, other than on the team with Brent and Pat. And there's,
Was that
as people are.
I'm the one that made
it wasn't you. I don't know who the judge was, but I remember what he looks like. It was terrible, dude. He was supposed to do 1 legless rope climb, 4 regular rope climbs, and everyone else did that, and the guy made him do 5 legless rope climbs. I mean, it's just like, come on. And Jeff just took it, did it anyway, went on with the event, and he appealed it, and the appeal was like, it wasn't good. Anyway, so whatever. But
was that also the same event that
had future content? Give us a T. I don't know what this is about. I don't know what's going on anymore. Patrick, you there?
Oh, okay. So yeah, I'll bring it up. Yeah. Can you hear me? Yeah. I'm here. Those who saw, Moritz did put a story up regarding reps ahead. I mean, there's no secret that we're trying to expand reps ahead. One of the people we're talking to is Moritz. So hopefully there's no secret we're trying to come to Europe with it. And, it'd be cool to have it in Germany. Nothing's official yet. But it'll be really cool, so IG Hoppers joining Brute. Maybe that is some news. But
I'll just say this, the fact that Jeff Adler and Laura Horvath are doing Wadapalooza is notable as you try to project forward to what next year could look like. I mean, Jeff Adler is very selective with the competitions he competes at. So is Laura Horvath. As Carolyn Lambright spoke about on Talking Elite Fitness, absolutely the athletes are considering where are their best earning potential and earning opportunities for the year. I'm extremely curious about how sponsors are going to integrate with the CrossFit Games compared to other events, whether they'll back off, maybe open up a little bit. Maybe they won't be as interested in sponsoring the games because it might be easier to do well there. Maybe I don't know. There's a lot of variables in play. And I've got some thoughts and opinions about that will also be available to hear relatively soon. The reps head stuff that Patrick's talking about is one of the things that I'm most excited about personally, because we're really trying to create some opportunities for athletes to do things and fun things, earn money and have fun doing it, compete hard, but not crush their body. This is hilarious, actually. But whatever. Yeah. So reps ahead, be on the lookout. We're going to have some cool stuff coming up in the next couple of weeks. I think that World Fitness Project will continue to have some cool announcements over the holidays. Wadapalooza is going to continue to roll out a bunch of great athletes who will be competing there individually and teams. So regardless of how you're feeling about the CrossFit Games season, there's a ton to look forward to in 2025 when it comes to competitive fitness.
Definitely. Here's a post 8 minutes ago. Explanation on my YouTube page. So let's do this thing. Brute Strength, Coach L. So there's a lot of rumors out there on what athletes are going where they may go. Usually it starts with one athlete making an announcement, and then you'll start seeing some other ones making some changes. We'll see. Again, the rumor mill is filled with them. But this is this is part of the evolution of being an athlete. We've seen it done with athletes like Brooke Wells, Katrin David's daughter, numerous athletes. Sometimes they get to a point at a camp where they've gone as far as they can, and it's time for a change. Jason coming off his 4th place finish, and he's really good friends with Dallin. They have a really good relationship. Their families, their wives get along very well. They have a really cool friendship. I got to see it. I mean, we've seen it firsthand. I got to see it a lot at. I got to see it in England, how those guys are around each other, and it's really cool. I'm really excited for those two. I think it's a good fit, and yeah, that's pretty cool.
Let's Patrick, did you see this comment?
Yeah. Who's CJ?
I don't know, but I want to talk to this guy, CJ. We've talked about this before with JR. JR is created one of the coolest and most competitive fitness communities and gyms that you're going to find. He's got a family, he's got kids, he's got a lot going on. He is heavily involved with Jason Hopper's day-to-day training. He may even have some say in the programming that he does there, but this is probably right. He probably doesn't want to exclusively be his coach. And I'm sure that there will be some kind of relationship between JR and Coach L, as there was with JR and Jake Marconi, that those guys, the listed coach, can do their thing, and JR will be there on site to work with him. They're good friends, good buddies. They sometimes train together. It's a unique situation, and it doesn't have to be the traditional defined athlete coach that we have seen and expect from other people to work. Yep.
And for what I know of Coach L, he very rarely has athletes on site anyways. Like he coached Danielle Brandon the last year and a half, and then some of the Kelsey Keel's another athlete that he famously coached that wasn't there. And you see a lot of that. I mean, a lot.
Patrick, do you think we should keep Hiller around for reps ahead?
Who's Hiller? NPC. I don't know if I don't get better. I don't know. I think that's a winning combination, especially the Hiller and Brian combination. So I don't know if Hiller would be willing to go to Europe to do these, or we have to maybe lean into someone like Lucy if we go to Europe. But no, just a lot of exciting things. Things have really progressed a lot when it comes to reps ahead. I mean, hopefully we'll have an announcement. Hopefully here in the next couple of weeks. And I think if everything that we have planned goes through, you guys are going to be it's going to be really fun. Really fun.
Do you remember that we said we didn't want to do a 2-hour show tonight?
We're not. We're at 1:47. Yeah. Ortega, passport ready. All right. But we got a lot of cool plans. I can't wait. I know Brian's excited about it, but just a lot of fun and exciting things. I keep on saying that, but it's true. So, but of course, none of that's isn't possible without everyone there that supports us, So we really appreciate that. And my boy SPM is not in the chat. I did get to meet him this weekend. And I did get a picture of him, but we did take a selfie, Brian. I found him later on. We took a selfie. So, yeah, Jeffrey, get that passport, man. There's going to be some cool shit. Everyone get their passport.
Jeff and I are going to play disc golf internationally sometime in the next 18 months. Let's make it happen.
All right. Okay. Thanks again, everyone, for dealing with us today. Sorry, I'm a little under the weather. It just hit me out of the blue. It's just weather change. All the traveling I'm doing. So my apologies on that. A little under the weather. Hopefully I'll be fine for this weekend. Brian has to get some sleep. I have to get some sleep. Yeah. But thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Thanks for all your support. And I'm going to put onions in my socks. And but I appreciate we appreciate everything as always, and just especially in the holiday season coming up, be friendly, our friends.